In 1996, Wes Craven came out with one of the most important movies that would shape American pop culture and the horror genre in American movies. Scream, 1996, is a movie where the main character, Sidney Prescott, a young, strong, and resilient teenage girl, is stalked and harassed and sometimes even chased by a murderous killer known as the Ghostface, whose identity is revealed. His personality is akin to that of many horror movies of the previous few years, and this paves the way for Scream to become one of the most important moments for pop culture in the 90s. One of the most important aspects of Scream, and why it's become synonymous with horror culture in America, is that it is self-aware of itself as a horror movie. It follows many of the basic rules of horror movies, which is actually brought up in the movie. So the movie knows it's a horror movie, and is therefore parodying itself. This is very important as it led the way for many parody movies to come out, such as Scary Movie. A movie is actually based on Scream, and is basically mocking the movie in a respectful manner. Another aspect of Scream, which makes it such an important moment, is the fact that all of the characters are young teenagers, and some of them are portrayed as idiots. However, we can see that some of them are actually very smart and resilient, such as the main character, Sidney Prescott. Sidney isn't just an important character in the 90s in horror movies, but she's also an important character for explaining how feminism has become so widespread in modern movies. Unlike previous movies of its time, the quote-unquote final girl, which was usually the final surviving character out of a group of friends being tormented by a killer, as many slasher movies are, they were usually dumb, made strange and questionable decisions, and didn't act so much as humans, but as mindless robots. And Scream kind of changed that, because now we have characters who are not only aware of themselves and aware of their surroundings, but are actually strong and resilient. And Sidney Prescott, the main character, is also a symbol for feminism in horror movies, as she is one of the first quote-unquote final girls, also known as usually the last character, usually female, who survives an initial attack from the killer in slasher movies, is resilient, strong, not many traits you'd see from female characters during that time. When Wes Craven created Scream, it's not like he didn't know what he was doing. He was a very experienced director, and still is. He's responsible for the Nightmare on Elm Street series, another revolutionary moment for pop culture. However, it would be an understatement to say that Scream changed pop culture just as much as Nightmare on Elm Street did. In fact, Scream revolutionized not just a genre, but the understanding of how American movies worked and how Hollywood works. Now you'd have characters in dire situations with intelligence and the willingness to fight back. Scream is one of the first horror movies, or slasher movies of its type, where the main character actually can fight back against the threat and actually do a pretty good job. Sidney escapes the first movie alive and lives on for 4 more sequels after that. And speaking of sequels, this movie's self-awareness of how horror movies work, which I brought up before, is also very important to understanding how Scream changed the way American movies work. For example, in Scream 2, the opening scene features a woman and her boyfriend at a movie theater watching a movie called Stab. Stab is pretty much just like Scream 1. It's pretty much the same movie, you're just watching different people act it out. And the self-awareness the series has shown for itself has caused a lot of parodies to come out in the horror genre, which is also another big moment for pop culture. Is Scream kind of put horror back into the mainstream. Horror was pretty much, at the time, going straight to VHS tapes and not in the cinemas. However, Scream changed that and revitalized horror for years to come, and even put it into the mainstream pop culture. So, in conclusion, Scream did a lot for modern Hollywood. It made characters smarter. It promoted feminist ideas at a time where women acting stupid in movies was normal. And it also promoted a sense of self-awareness that can be found in a lot of movies to this day. Because of Scream, characters like Freddy Krueger, Michael Myers, and even Ghostface, the killer from the movie, are pop culture icons who have been featured in many crossovers including a Jason Voorhees and Freddy Krueger crossover in 2003 that was also hilariously self-aware of itself. Scream is a movie that didn't just change horror, but it changed Hollywood and pop culture, even for many years to come after its initial release in 1996.